Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Song radio show right here on YouTube. My name is Leon Jones, and this video, I'm going to talk about the after election or the post election media frenzy and other topics. Now, as you know, there is still a Senate race that's going on right now in Pennsylvania. Now, I've always been a little skeptical of Pennsylvania, particularly around the Philadelphia area. Now, right now you have McCormick and you have Bob Casey running. Now, when I looked at certain sources, such as Yahoo, Politico, they actually called the race, and AP is another one. They called the race for McCormick. Now they're recounting the votes again. Now it's funny because in 2020, when the same thing happened, you didn't hear a lot about recounting the votes. Now, I'm not going to put out any propaganda here, but elections do have consequences. And as I go into the media fallout, as you know, the media see it in it, and I knew it was going to happen. They are losing audience. And the reason why I believe CNN, MSNBC, and all the alphabet channels are losing audience, it's because they totally lied to the people. The media was a big propaganda machine for the Democrats, and they paid surrogates to come in and lie to get a Kamala Harris elected. And you have to look at Kamala Harris being $20 million in debt. So you raise $1 billion and you're $20 billion in debt. Now, if you think about that, would you like that running your company? That means when you end up in the red all the time, you spend a lot of money. Now, what she did is she paid a lot of celebrities to come in to put on an entertainment fest, particularly for the Black audiences. Now, unfortunately, when it comes to a number of Black people, many of us are politically ignorant. In fact, when we vote, we always vote for the symbology. We want to see the first Black. We want to see the first woman. However, when you look at everything, we do have Black people running some parts of the country, and they're running Democratic areas. And these Democratic areas have a lot of crime, a lot of welfare, and this is where all your migrants are going. And they're populated areas. And of course, most of the constituency is Democratic. And if you look at the map after this election, yes, Trump had 312 electoral college votes to Kamala Harris's 226 electoral college votes. But something that is really more astounding, and I'm just going to put a round number on it, but if you look at the total counties, I'm going to say we had a total of right around 3,200 total counties in the United States alone. And right around 2,600 of them were won by the Republicans and roughly 600 by the Democrats. Now, if you think about it, that 600, that was the populated areas. And if we look at all the populated areas again, besides the crime, the welfare, the migrants, they're also expensive to live in. And I'm talking about the cities of Baltimore, Houston, Chicago, Los Angeles, New York. These are all cities Yes, they make a lot of money off of tourism, but they're very expensive to live in. But when you have New York and you have Los Angeles, this is where you have the movie capital of the world and the media capital of the world. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and play a small clip. Now, just bear with me here with this as I share my sound here. Hopefully you can look at it. This is Zoom here. And with Zoom, this is the new Zoom. And what we call, let me share my computer sound. There we go. Again, we're going to put on some videos. And what we're going to do, we're going to check out this media meltdown. Now, one particular person that I did not like is you had this black professor that came on the media. Well, you look at it yourself. Now, let me go back and talk about this. I heard the word fascist. I heard the word 2025 many times. Now, let's get something straight about 2025. Project 2025 was actually conjured up by the Heritage Foundation. Now, the Heritage Foundation used to be a conservative watchdog consultation group. But I believe that Project 2025, that was funded or written by the Heritage Foundation, I believe that that was definitely endorsed. They endorsed Kamala Harris. So if you think about it, who really took charge of Project 2025? You see, what nobody is reading is Agenda 47. That's what President Trump is going by. Now, what happened with the media is the media got everything wrong. They dressed everything up. See, you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. Well, what the media did, they dressed everything up for this non-competent person running for president. She had a bunch of word salad, didn't answer a question, but the media made everything about her look good. And it even made the polls closer than they seem. Now, let's continue. Hear what's going on with MSNBC, and I'll give you more of my commentary. Fair use.
From left-wing media outlets like MSNBC. In his final week of the election campaign, Donald Trump sat down with the world
You know, there have been several new developments coming from Washington as lawmakers wrap up what's been a busy day on Capitol Hill. ABC News and CNN now project Republicans have won enough seats to keep control of the House. They're expected to hold on to 2 seats in California and Arizona, bringing the GOP to the threshold of 218. This will give Republicans total control of the government, with majorities in the House and Senate and Mr. Trump in the White House. It'll give the president-elect a clear path to push through his agenda and possibly reshape the government.
Well, this hasn't taken long at all. The mainstream media is in meltdown as votes are being counted, and it's not going the way they'd hoped. Donald Trump has won the...
All right. Enough with the mainstream media right now. We know it's going to happen, so I'm not going to play too many clips. I'm just going to go ahead and most likely freestyle it the rest of the way. Like I said, Zoom has got something very, 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 very new, and the next time I record a video, I'm going to test everything out before I come on. But I'm going to give you my take on the mainstream media right now. The mainstream media it's us. We have become the mainstream media. We report everything as it comes down the pipe, where the mainstream media is corporate. And if you think about it, I also call it the leg of the Democratic Party. Now, the bottom line with the media is they are a bunch of academics. Now, when I told you about the 5 power conferences of society, the media is one of them. Now, if you don't know what the 5 powers of society are, I'm going to give them to you right now. First, you have religion, then you have education, then you have your government, then your jobs, and the media. Now, if you think about it, the left-wingers control all 5 areas of culture. Now, what's going on now is, and nobody's going to tell you this, we really live in a culture, some people call it a matriarchy, which it's not a matriarchy. It is more or less a quasi-Marxist socialist society. And generally, when it comes to women, what do women vote for? Women vote for resources. This is why they tell you they don't need a man. Well, the media has enforced that. The feminist movement has enforced that. In fact, a lot of these movements that you hear about, whether they're the feminist movement, whether they're the Black Panthers movement, the Poor People's Campaign, and even Martin Luther King, they all have a resemblance of communism attached to it. Now, you may think about communism as a whole, but the media is not telling you about communism. When you hear Kamala Harris, or when you heard Kamala Harris come out and say, well, we're not turning back. Well, the reason why she said we're not turning back, because she was going into a real dark place where we had communism. And see, what she doesn't understand is we are a society based off of a Judeo-Christian concept. See, Kamala Harris was anti-male. She's anti-family, although she has stepchildren. But when she met her husband, her children were already grown. So she's never had children on her own. And if you think about a lot of these media hacks out here, I don't believe a number of them have ever had children. They've never been parents. Many of them have been working for the money. Many of them have gone to school, but they're still dumb as a box of rocks when they come out of school. I was listening to Anton Daniels, and shout out to brother Anton Daniels. I mean, he puts everything out there. And shout out to Angry Man. I'm happy for Angry Man. Angry Man has, from the time I've seen him from 2015, 2016 on now, he's really grown. He's really gotten even more and more knowledgeable. And there are other YouTubers like Benny Johnson, Benny Cunningham, the real A-Dog, ABL, doing fantastic work on YouTube. And small channels like mine, we can stay in the mix as well. You just have to put out a good product, get your listeners, understand what you're talking about. And for the most part, have little charisma and speak well, but know what you're talking about. Now, going back to this more or less matriarchy or communist manifesto, one of the things that you're going to hear when it comes to the mainstream media is that there's a lot of misogyny going on. We men, particularly Black men, don't like women. It's not that we don't like women. Some of us believe in the higher order of everything, or we call it the higher order of nature. It's God, man, woman, and child. Now, I'm not saying that women can't be leaders in some areas, but when it comes to being president, no. But if you think about it, as Black men, we're talked about through the media. I mean, you can hear Sonny Houston every day and Joy Reid every day on those shows. They're either talking about racism or misogyny. But how many women voted for Kamala Harris because she was a woman? That's not being addressed. Why? Because it's allowed. And see, this is what the media does. The media likes to take one side and shut it down for their side. And their free speech, they believe that their free speech is the speech, and speech like mine is fascism, when in actuality, they're the ones giving you the disinformation, misinformation, the fascism. They're the ones coming out with the authoritarianism. But in the end, they're looking at us as if we're anti-trans. I do not want men, and I don't care what you say, when you are a trans woman that you believe you are, and you're playing in women's sports, that's not right. In fact, that makes you, in my humble opinion, make you a weak man because you can't play with the men. I remember they had a man, and he was a man. He went inside a spa, and there were women and there were kids in that spa, dick swinging like a motherfucker. So, you know what happened? When he was called on it, he said, "Oh, I'm a woman." Well, how you gonna be a woman with a penis sticking up in front of everybody? That's not a woman. And BLM, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, they came out there and marched for that guy who called himself a trans woman, while basically taunting the Asians who own the spa. And that's the problem. If you think about it, you have a number of people, particularly women, coming out there saying, well, women's rights is gone. Well, Trump was president one time. When was women's rights ever abolished? I believe women have too many rights. They get away with everything. They're not held to the same standards that we're held to. Why? Because you have a lot of simps in power who allow it. You have a lot of simps in the media. You have a lot of simps in college. And, looking at everything, the mainstream media drives everything. Why? Because most people look at the mainstream media. This is where they're getting their information from. And if they don't have the mainstream media in front of them, they're looking at mainstream media clips. This is why just a few minutes ago, no, I didn't want to play the Joy Reids and Sonny Houstons. You've heard that enough. But the bottom line is, I'm happy that the media has got low ratings. It's got low ratings because nobody's watching them. People are coming to YouTube. Now, here's what I believe the mainstream media is going to try to do. They're going to try to come over here to YouTube or Rumble. And you know what? They're going to get shellacked over here because it's a different ball game over here, because we will cook you alive in this sector because we have comments. We're watching you all the time. We take the fire over here. If you are in the mainstream media and you want to come over here, there are no celebrities over here because we grill up celebrities over here. I don't care if you are Usher. I don't care who you are. The bottom line is you're not going to come and bring your propaganda over here. Because like I said, mainstream media right now is dead. Mainstream media, they were running for Kamala Harris and they failed. This is why they're getting on TV crying like a bitch. Particularly, you got Van Jones. You got this Princeton, he's a black man, he's got a gray goatee. This nigga should be in there teaching something in school, but yet he's sitting on MSNBC, he's sitting on CNN crying, talking about racism. Nigga, please. What you should be doing is racing your ass back to class and teaching your students. He's from Princeton University. Princeton University is an Ivy League school. And the bottom line is, these are the individuals who come from that academic sector that are on TV right now. One thing about college teaches you a lot of propaganda, particularly in the humanities sector. Now, here's what I would do. Me, if I'm running the college system, I'm gonna cut the funding off and the endowments off if they're teaching propaganda. And we're gonna have watchdogs to make sure that we have a curriculum that's not focused on DEI, that's not focused on studies. Anytime I hear studies, women's studies, African American studies, Asian studies, it's all bullshit. That's all it is. Bottom line is, you have these individuals out here in the media. They think they know more than we know. I mean, you look at Kamala Harris. You look at the celebrities. They didn't do a damn thing for the individuals in North Carolina during that hurricane. And I'm going to tell you why. But they were Republican areas. But yet those individuals got out there to vote. In fact, the media thought that people reporting from North Carolina, it wasn't real. But see, these are the individuals that are sitting in New York and LA, unless something happens to them, who don't know what's going on. It's just like when all that riffraff was going on back in 2020. You had this big, fat ass, Tubalard, short, penguin motherfucker named Gerald Nadler. If you're familiar with him, and this is what you guys need to know. You need to know the name of some of these congressmen out there. Gerald Nadler, I believe that's his name. He's from New York. You know what he said? He said, all of this is myth. It's because he can't get his ass out of Washington, D.C. And this is why you cannot listen to the mainstream media. And this is why the Democrats go running to the mainstream media, because the mainstream media is for them. And see, what the mainstream media does is they want censorship when it comes to us while they have their speech. The mainstream media is very dangerous. And when you hear these kooks on the mainstream media, now there's one who's pretty good. He's on CNN, and that's Scott Jennings. Now, Scott Jennings was one of the aides or advisors for Mitch McConnell. If you're not familiar who Scott Jennings is, he breaks it down. But then you have these real blabbermouth women and crybaby men on CNN, and they think because they are on TV and they have an education, they can bring their academics into the sector. Let me tell you something about academics. Anybody, if they want to, can learn something. It depends on what you're interested in. Now, I'm gonna beat down on college right now because I went to college. Now, is all college bullshit? No. If you're going to STEM, if you're going to being a medical doctor, if you're going to be a lawyer, That's fine. Now, if you're going into humanities or if you're going into history, there's nothing wrong with learning those unless you're going to go to law school. But the problem with those fields, because history, you have people that were rewriting history to make you look like what we know happened didn't happen. Well, that's propaganda. And the propaganda from these colleges creates these social justice warriors. And these social justice warriors, what they do, they'll go out and they'll spit their propaganda, just like what happened in 2020. And, looking at this election, it showed you that this country is still center right. And it really wasn't about Republican and Democrat. It was a war against, okay, what culture do you want? Yes, the economy was very important. But if you think about it, what kind of culture do you want? Do you want this culture that's filled with Cloward and Pivens and Marxism and communism? Or do you want to really go back to the way things were? Now, I'm not talking about going back into Jim Crow. I'm not talking about that. What I'm sorely talking about is, do you want a country that you can be very prosperous? Because I'm going to tell you this right now, and I'm seeing it every day. Might not like President Trump, but if you're a stockholder right now, your stocks are going way up. I see gas prices dropping. And groceries, they're starting to come down. And that's no fluke. It's happening. Why? Because we know what's coming. Now, the media, they're going to dress it up like Joe Biden is the best thing since sliced bread and the economy is good under him. Well, the problem with the media is they're getting a lot of money, and I'm glad that MSNBC want to sell them MSNBC. They definitely want to sell that. They want to sell it big time. Problem with MSNBC and all these other channels, and I have Comcast. Comcast owns MSNBC, they own NBC. Now I'm hoping somebody buys MSNBC. If you think about it, you have the main alphabet channels, ABC, CBS, and NBC. Those are going to be saved because they have more programming than just news. Now, CNBC is business, but MSNBC is just news. Well, the problem with MSNBC and even CNN, you have all these, they're supposed to be news shows, but they've become opinion sites. And when you are going to college and they're teaching you opinion instead of research and actual journalism, well, it becomes propaganda. And when you are not educated enough to see the propaganda, you will believe the propaganda. And this is what you are hearing from Joy Reid. This is what you're hearing from Sonny Houston. This is what you're hearing from The View. This is what you're hearing from CNN and even some individuals on Fox. In fact, Chris Wallace, he quit. Chris Wallace wasn't that great anyway. I remember when he was over at ABC, then he went to Fox, then he went over to CNN. There will be a lot more people walking out of CNN because today we don't need that network news. It's all show. Now, looking at the media, we are the media here over on YouTube and Rumble. And I like what President Trump is doing. He's going to make sure that we have free speech. And that's free speech for everybody. So even if you are on the left, nobody is stopping you from getting on YouTube, creating a platform where you can bring your left-wing point of view to YouTube or to Rumble. But yet, on television, we can't bring our center right-wing points of views over there to television. Because when you are looking at everything from the right, you're basically misogynist, you're basically homophobic, all the names, racist. But you know what? Those who are calling the names, they're the exact people we're talking about, but they're doing it from guilt. Whenever I hear somebody white tell me about racism, and they have to mention racism, I'm black many times, or black folk many times, that's white guilt. And Malcolm X said, and this was 60 years ago, your enemy was that white liberal. That's your real enemy. But you know what, with these feminists out here, it's funny with these white feminists, and they were all built up by school and by the media. But you think about it, not only were they built up by academia, these are the people running the country. And this Democratic Party, remember something, they were the party who was always against the Republican Party because you had a lot of blacks in the Republican Party. Yes, before 1964, blacks were mainly Republicans. Blacks were the conservatives. They've always been conservative. They might vote in some areas liberal, but it used to be, well, that was in the past. But now what you have now, you have a lot of your black women. They follow white feminism, but here's what the white feminists do. They go home to their men. The black women are the ones, I didn't say all of them, but a number of them. They're the ones that go out and tell you they don't need a man. It's all driven by media and academia. This is all by design to keep black people apart. But you have a number of black people who don't see that. And yes, I know that 25% of black men and maybe 9 or 10% of black women voted for Donald Trump. Okay. But if you think about it, what about the other 90% of black women and 75% of black men who supported Kamala Harris? So that tells you the majority of black people still support the Democratic Party. This is why the Democrats, every 2 to 4 years, they're coming into black churches. They're trying to get into black culture with some cultural appropriation. And that's what Kamala Harris did. She was trying to sound like a black person. And even she tried to cook like a black person when she was talking about collard greens. And again, you don't put collard greens in a bathtub. I know I wash my funky ass in the bathtub. I wash my feet in the bathtub. And even when I clean the bathtub. Now, you don't even run your water in the bathtub. That's not good water, believe it or not. And on my STEM channel, I want to talk about the different types of water because you have brown water, you have black water, you have gray water, and some of it is not even potable. But bottom line, Hillary Clinton did the same thing. She was going down south, trying to talk like a Southerner. And see, we all saw through that. But the media was yucking it up. Like, it was the newest thing since sliced bread. And because of the Democrat Party's stubbornness, this is why you have the fallout with the media, because they refuse to take this loss. In fact, they're thinking up all kinds of games here for Kamala Harris. I shouldn't say all kinds, but at least two. Well, they want Joe Biden, some of them, to step down while she's installed as president. We need to, I believe, the 25th Amendment to do that. Well, okay. Put her in office for 2 months. Well, she couldn't run a campaign because she's $20 million in debt and she's trying to get money. Yes, she's out there begging for money. So because she couldn't run a campaign, what makes you think she can run a country? And number two, this is also coming out, they're trying to get Justice Sotomayor, that's her name. She's 70 years old. The media claims she has some health problems. They want her to step down so Joe Biden can put Kamala Harris in there just to disrupt the court with Kamala Harris so she can be a thorn in the side of the conservative judges, because you know the Supreme Court, their lifetime appointments. Well, this woman didn't even do good as a DA. She fucked her way to the top. Everybody knows that. Ask Montel Williams. Ask Willie Brown. She was a flawed candidate. Now, what's really troubling about this is that they put Kamala Harris to be the fall guy or the fall gal. I mean, if you think about it, she had a hell of a lot more money than Donald Trump. A hell of a lot more money. Donald Trump knew how to utilize the media better than she did. He's a celebrity himself. He was a TV producer. And don't underestimate his knowledge. Because as I move on, Mitch McConnell, these rhinos, John Thune, Conyers, I don't trust these guys in the Republican Party. They're senators. Now, right now, the Senate is 52-48 or 53-47, depending on what happens in Pennsylvania, because it was a short lead. Recounts are going on between Casey and McDonald. And there's also something going on out there with the Kerry Lake situation in Arizona as well. So that needs to be looked at. And see, the media, again, they had 80%, I'm just gonna say 80% likability for the Democrats, 90% negativity for Donald Trump. That's the problem with the media. The media is very powerful. And when you are a person who doesn't do much reading or research, and you think with your feelings, when you sit down and watch the media, you're going to believe everything the media has to say, even they are lying. And the media, believe it or not, those surrogates got paid as well to lie. I mean, you had Al Sharpton. Yeah. You had Michael Eric Dyson at one time. I mean, these niggas got on there talking about you're pronouncing her name wrong. Fuck that. Don't care who she is. The media puts nothing out but bullshit. And the funny thing about it is they think we're stupid. And what failed the Democratic Party this time is the media. Because after a while, many of us, we caught on to the lies. Kamala Harris was telling the lies. The media was telling the lies. And what we did, we got up here on YouTube and we exposed the lies. And in the end, it's nothing the media could do. The media, really, they wanted to censor us because we were putting the truth out there, exposing them. So if you think about it, the mainstream media is nothing but a bunch of corporate scum. But their days have been had. And if you think about future elections, they don't need the media. In fact, I believe what made this election a lot better wasn't the media. It's people like myself who got content out, whether I have a small channel or a large channel, put out the information. Yes, I am a Trump supporter. I voted for Trump. I voted a straight ticket down. I did. Because I looked at what was going on. I know there was a black chick. Anton had her on. And she said the problem with black men is we're uneducated. When you asked them why they voted for Trump, she was saying that the black men said the economy. Okay. Well, that is the right answer. The economy is bad. But what she didn't ask is, why is the economy bad? Now, if she came and asked me a question like that, I'd say migration, because we have too many migrants coming over and they've already gotten into the welfare system. And what they've done to the welfare system is they've gone and used a little Cloward and Pivens and they soaked up all the welfare money, which means people who are Americans can't even get that money. Then we look at the energy. Well, we had the XL pipeline. Well, Joe Biden stopped that. So we're depending on foreign energy. So when we depended on foreign energy, it rose the prices. And then when you look at energy, we have to utilize trains, planes, automobiles, which all take gas. Well, guess what? Gas is expensive. So when your energy is high, it's going to be some cost to produce goods as well, because that's using energy too. It's using electricity. Well, when you can't manufacture your own electricity, you have to depend on somebody else's electricity, the cost comes down to the customer. That's what people don't know. And tariffs. So anybody that asks me, why did I vote for Trump? Tariffs. Tariffs do not put a country in debt. That's money coming from other countries. It's a tax. And then if you bring taxes down on people, they can make money. And Trump, he was talking about no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime. I didn't hear Kamala Harris mention anything but copy Trump. When she said no taxes on tips, she didn't know anything about the economy. She was talking about the opportunity economy. Well, you can't have an opportunity economy when you're raising taxes, because that's exactly what she wanted to do. And that bill, I believe it was one of those rhinos that I saw today, Conyers, Thune, they voted for that bill that Trump killed, that Kamala Harris said it was a bipartisan bill to close the border, which it was not a bipartisan bill, but the media made it look like it was a bipartisan bill, because she was always going to those friendly media outlets, preaching the lies to the media, and the media believed it. You look at Obama, he came out there. He was trying to tell black people how to vote, particularly black men. And this was all generated by the media. The media had that much power. But in the end, it didn't work. And the media is scratching their heads now, because some of them, they're not going to have jobs in the future. And the reason why they're not going to have jobs in the future is because they spit out propaganda. We knew about Kamala Harris. When you cannot get to the Iowa caucus, and that's the first caucus you go to during your presidential primaries, she didn't get any votes. But yet she believes she should have still been president. Well, The Democrats, they cheated themselves. See, they were good for trying to utilize the media for things to go their way. And yes, the media was helping them out in 2020. And see, that's also the difference. Twitter, it wasn't owned by Elon Musk in 2020. In fact, Trump, who was the president then, had his account discontinued. So he had to go and get up Truth Social and Getter, and there was MeWe and Parler. You don't hear too much about MeWe and Parler or even Getter too much. They're smaller outfits. They're still around. But I tell you what, they need to actually utilize those outlets, because the more outlets the Republicans or the right wingers have, I don't even want to use the word right wingers, the opposite of the Democrats, opposite of mainstream, because it's alternate media. The more alternate media you have, the better it is, because number one, you will get an opportunity to debunk the mainstream media. That's what we're doing here. Because the mainstream media, they're allowed to say whatever they want, whenever they want, and they know they're going to get away with it. Because there's so much money floating around with the mainstream media. Again, the mainstream media told you that Trump had small rallies and Harris had big rallies. Harris had decent sized rallies when she paid for the celebrities. And I also believe that she bussed in people to make it look like she had an audience, because for the most part, you had individuals that wanted to come in there and get a free concert. That's what that is. And when you have Meg Thee Stallion and Glorilla, what the fuck? Glorilla? I mean, they actually think we're a bunch of monkeys out there. That nigga shit. And when it comes to black people, let me say, come closer to this camera. You all got to stop believing these white liberals. You all got to stop buck dancing and calling people like me a coon. You know, you're the real coons, because you're on that Boganey shit because you believe everything the media and the Democrats tell you. I mean, when Michelle Obama is telling women not to listen to their men, you should have been like Snagglepuss, exit stage right. But no, you wanted to stay there like you were this strong, independent woman. Now, a lot of you black women, you've been brainwashed by the white feminists. You talk about white women, but yet you follow their feminism. Which means, a number of you sisters out there, you talk about how educated you are. You go to school, you're the most enrolled, you're not the most educated. Anybody can get an education. You don't need a degree to get an education. That's that media telling you you need a degree. And you look at everybody who's got a degree who works for CNN, who works for MSNBC. They need a mental institution. They're delusional. I mean, if you don't believe me, you look at Sonny Houston. You look at Joy Reid. This is why I'm not playing clips. I started to, but I don't even want to hear this woman's mouth. This woman, see, let me tell you something about the Democrats. You all are very delusional. Not all of you, but a number of you. A number of you are delusional. You have arrested development. You think you're smarter than everybody, but you're not. Just because you talk smart doesn't mean that you're smart. Many of you don't critically think, you feel. You utilize symbology. You're nothing but a bunch of coalitions. This is why you always have to put race and gender into everything. You had no policies. I mean, I heard the media saying, well, Kamala Harris had policies. No, she didn't have policies. But when she tried to put out a policy, she wanted a policy where the government ran everything. That's her policy. And when it was time for her to get the opportunity to get elected, she immediately flip-flopped. I mean, and the media didn't call her out on anything. You may have had maybe Brett Baird and Anderson Cooper, but basically they let Kamala Harris run amok. I mean, every time she got on the TV stage, and it was funny, all of her town halls, everything was taped. She couldn't do a town hall. She couldn't do a 3-hour podcast with Joe Rogan. She went on Shannon Sharp, wanted an hour. Now, she wanted to come to Joe Rogan, but she wanted Joe Rogan to do it her way. She could only do it for an hour. Well, the bottom line is you don't get to make that determination. It is not your show. It is his show. And for the most part, when you let the media dictate to you on what you need to know, you need your head examined. And this is the problem with the lefties right now. They've told so much lies sitting up there on those media panels. They hurt themselves. They may have worked themselves out of a job. And then you have, going back to Chris Wallace. Chris Wallace wants to come and do podcasting. Let me tell you something, Chris. You think working at CNN was hard? You come do a podcast. Number one, you're not going to get any audience. Number two, you already have a bad reputation. Look at Don Lemon. Yeah, Don Lemon's got to revert to Instagram and Facebook because he just left X. He said it's because there's no free speech. No, there is free speech. They weren't listening to his speech. Again, he told a lie because individuals weren't going the way he wanted them to. And see, the media adds to the authoritarianism / the fascism / the communism that the Democrats have, because they're really the party of the fascism. They're really the party of the misinformation, disinformation. They're the party of the delusion. They're the party of the imaginary world. They don't look at the real world. You know, you have a number of them saying, well, when Trump gets in, women are going to lose their rights. Well, who said women are going to lose their rights? Did women lose their rights when Trump was in office the first time? Did Trump invoke the 19th Amendment where women couldn't vote? No. And that brings me to another topic. The new Speaker of the House. I am not too crazy about this John Thune. He's the senator from South Dakota. He's a rhino. But I'm going to tell you what can happen. So you all know this. And nobody's ever imposed it. And this comes all the way back from the year 1789. The Senate Majority Leader is a placeholder because the President of the Senate is the Vice President of the United States. So if the rhinos with John Thune and even Mitch McConnell was part of the rhinos, they try to stop anything that is being put through by Donald Trump, J.D. Vance can sit in there with the gavel and he can say, well, we don't need you. He told John Thune, we don't need you. Now you also have a majority whip and a minority whip. The purpose of the whips is to instill the discipline between the parties. So you have a majority whip and you have a minority whip and you have the Speaker of the House. So I'm just going to say this. For you rhinos out there, your goose is cooked. If you fuck this shit up, your goose is cooked. They're coming for you. You're not going to have the media on your side. And remember, you wear an R on your sleeve too, just like the MAGA Republicans. And the Republican Party is no longer tolerating any BS from the establishment. See, the problem with the establishment Republicans is they allowed the Democrats to dictate. They cared about what the Democrats thought. And the Democrats want rhinos in power because the Democrats can run roughshod and they can stop anything that the Republicans want. Because the establishment Republicans, either they don't have balls or they're in it with the Democrats. They're in it. They're in bed with them. The bottom line is you look at the Liz Cheneys. She didn't do anything in Wyoming. She got smoked. They don't like her in the Republican Party. And she went out there to try to campaign with Harris. Didn't work. And you rhinos go with some shenanigans. We all know what you're up to. Especially when you did that conference today and you didn't say make America great. We know you're snakes. And see, this is what the Democrats need to start doing. You need to get rid of the individuals who keep bringing you down. If you want to make headway, you got to be centrist and right, not going all the way to the left to the Communist Manifesto. You're using Sololinsky. It doesn't work. You're using Cloward Pivens. It doesn't work. But on this, you rhinos, the Republicans, the people got you the Senate. Fuck this up. What's going to happen? You're going to have the Democrats right back in power. And we're watching you. J.D. Vance is the president of the Senate. He can sit on your Senate meetings. He doesn't need you. You're a placeholder. That's all you are. Mitch McConnell was bad, but like I said, wanted Rick Scott of Florida. And then Republicans want you to maintain your house. I know you pulled a few of them off, like Elise, Stenek from New York, and Matt Gaetz, who's the Attorney General. You don't want to pull everybody out from the House because you need more seats. Right now, you're at 219. You know, if everything goes right and no shenanigans goes on, the Republicans are leading in the rest of the Senate seats. Now, there's not going to be a runoff in Alaska, but the person running up there can't get 50%. And well, he's going to win that seat anyway. The Republicans are going to end up, in my humble opinion, with at least 222 seats. Hopefully, if they win these 6, they'll end up with 225 to their 210. See, when you are a House member and you get picked to an appointed position like Marco Rubio, not Marco Rubio, because the governor installed another senator in Marco Rubio's place. But with the House, it's a little different. What it is you're going to be installed for 90 days and there'll be a special election. That's the problem. And you don't want to lose to that Democrat. That's the problem. See, the House is a little bit more, I'm going to say, stringent than the Senate because the House terms are only 2 years. Every 2 years. And you're running for your congressional districts. The Senate is the upper level. Now, it's good that the Republicans have the Senate because they can make the confirmations, and that includes confirming judges, confirming Supreme Court justices. That's why you want your party to have the Senate and the House. Now, of course, Donald Trump is going to sign some executive orders, but the deportation, well, what you have to do is cut the funding off. If you see that a city is a sanctuary city, cut it off. That's all you have to do. And when you are in power, I hear people talking about, well, Donald Trump's going to be a dictator. Was he a dictator the last time he was in power? No. But we should certainly live good. The only thing that messed Donald Trump up was the coronavirus. But if you think about it, when he lost that second time because of what happened before, I'm not going to say it was a good thing. It was bad, but he got a chance to recoup and learn. Because if you think about it, had this been his second term, how much would he have gotten done? He would have had Mike Pence as his president. And see, when you have establishment people within your party, they're down with the status quo, the status quo. They're war hawks. They make their money. They're grifters. They live off the taxpayers for a long time. There are no term limits. And we do need term limits. I know they'll never happen because then you have to go in and put another amendment in the Constitution. And I believe the last amendment was put in 1992 where Congress could give themselves a raise. That was the 27th Amendment. Well, they're going to have to amend the Constitution with term limits. You think they're going to do that? Hell no, they're not going to do that. They'll never do that. This is why you have lifetime politicians. And of course, they believe in that media. The media helps them. And with the mainstream media now, they're hurting right now because they had all these high hopes. They didn't think about the people. The people have spoken. And when you're calling Republican women, and I'm talking to you, Mr. Cuban, yes, you own the Dallas Mavericks, but you said Republican women were weak and stupid. No, the Democratic women are weak and ugly. And you think about it, they're the ones cutting their heads off or their hair off, growing hair under their arms. They're the ones telling you that we're not going to give men sex, the 4B. We're not going to give men babies. Guys don't want to fuck you anyway. You're ugly. You're not telling guys anything. I'm talking about you black women and you white women out there. You're not hurting us. Can't get any anyway. Guys don't want you. Not scaring us. And the media's going to drive that up too. Oh, we're not going to give you because you got this from one of those Asian countries. Let me tell you something, ladies. Think you can hold that back from a man? He can go get it anywhere if he wants it. But men ain't thinking about it like that either. No, they're not. Men are thinking about making money. Men are doing what men need to do. And it's about time that men actually took their power back and lead instead of being led. Because the only man who's going to be subservient is a simp. And you got simps and all races. Men are scared to speak out. Now, was there a bit of misogyny for this election? Yeah, there was. But you women had the misandry as well. You wanted Kamala Harris to win because she's a woman. If you don't know anything about the candidate, what you can look at about that candidate is this: Trump is a man. He's what we call an alpha male, and Harris is a woman. And if Harris won, women would feel empowered, but she didn't. And that's why a number of you women are calling men misogynists. Well, it's about time men got their balls back. Because most men, in my opinion, were weak. And in the end, it's the media driving all this. The media, your churches. You had Kamala Harris, one hand saying that you're in the wrong rally if you believe in Jesus. Go to the other rally, the smaller rally. But then she goes to a black church, started begging for black votes, but she didn't go to any other churches. Why? Because it's easy to get blacks. See, the way you get power is you prey on people's ignorance. And that's what they do to black people. A number of black people don't want to hear it, but a number of us are ignorant when it comes to politics. And we will always be ignorant because we vote based on symbology. We would rather go broke just to see the first woman or the first black in power. And guess what? We're still not empowered because they don't have our best interest. Obama didn't have our best interest. And here you have Michelle Obama telling women not to listen to their men. So that means in her household, she runs her household. But that doesn't go, anywhere else. It's in her household. We have a lot of men putting up with that bullshit. Not going to happen, Cat. But when it comes to politics, you need an agenda, you need it well financed, and you need it organized. But you need to know what those issues are. Symbolism isn't going to put money in your pocket. Symbolism isn't going to lower taxes. Symbolism isn't going to lower your grocery bill. It's not going to make education better. If you want the system to change, you got to learn how to be part of changing the system. And it's just not on your vote. It's getting up here, putting content out. It's being the media. You got to start with changing the outcomes in your churches. And see, change comes locally. People are always looking at the federal level, but you got to look locally. That's even inside your home. That's inside your church. That's inside your schools. Many of us black people don't look that far. Again, we'd rather see somebody that looks like us in power to make us feel good. But in the end, we're not good. A number of us are sick in the head. You know why? Because we allowed the media. We allowed the churches. They're failing institutions. But because they're failing institutions, we haven't done anything about it. That makes us failures. A number of us don't understand how government works. This is why we're ignorant. A number of us are delusional. This is why we vote symbology. A number of us are struggling. We'd rather, a number of women would rather have 2 or 3 kids without a man just to say they're independent, but they'd struggle just to prove that they can do it without a man. And what they're doing is they're creating more criminals. See, we talk about the abortion, but what about the individuals already here? Because if you think about it, abortion is killing, but when you have somebody here and they're shooting at each other, is that not the same as abortion? Killing is killing no matter what. You're just killing one inside the womb and one inside or outside the house. That's what we're doing. And in the end, it's not helping us at all. It's keeping us down. And then we have poor education systems. Whenever a teacher is coming in and bringing propaganda to the classroom, run for the hills. In fact, my position when it comes to education is let's get rid of the public school system. It doesn't work. I'd rather have charter schools, home schools. And when it comes to college, everybody doesn't need to go to college. I think college, we've hit that nail on the head so much. You have a number of people who have college degrees, but if you think about it, when everybody has a college degree, you might as well not have a college degree because you saturate the market with college degrees. So you go nowhere. The bottom line is you don't need a college degree to study politics. You don't need a college degree to be educated. There are people who dropped out of school to become millionaires, i.e., I'll name a few: Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg. And guess what? They got college students working for them. You got people out there like Jeff Bezos, who owns the Washington Post and Amazon. He wants to get more conservatives in his newspaper. Why? Because even the Washington Post is failing. And I watch Newsweek. Newsweek used to be a magazine. Newsweek is also failing. They're also printing propaganda. You have Vogue. You have the Huffington Post. The liberals control all of the media, whether it's the print media, whether it's online. And you have so many people who actually believe that propaganda, and that propaganda, instead of looking at the other side, they're going to look at what the media says, and then they're going to make their choice. You have to research. And when you research, especially when you're looking at sources, you see where the other individuals get their sources from. See if you can cross-reference. Go to ground.com. Well, what ground.com, that takes left-wingers and right-wingers, because there's propaganda on both sides, but I see it more on the left. Well, what ground.com does, it puts all of the media into perspective, and then you'll find the right answer right there. And see, in this sector of YouTube, this is why I don't go on panels, because there are a number of people who are very, very effeminate, particularly men, and they love to have women on their panel. I know I saw This Must Be Risky panel the other day. I mean, the angry man was giving him a lesson on politics. These individuals didn't want to listen to him. I know they had one black woman named Love and the other black woman named HQ. These are individuals that believe in feminism. They want to be right. Bottom line, being stubborn doesn't make you right, or being in denial. We call it stubborn, a number of them are in denial. They don't know what's going on out here. This is why the left got eaten for dinner this past election. Had nothing to do with Trump. It was a referendum against the culture. People are tired of political correctness, utilizing DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion just to put people of different ethnicities in power to make it look like there's true diversity when it's actually forced diversity. And it's all fake, because generally you put somebody in power who isn't qualified to do the job. That's the problem. But again, the media, they're driving everything. This is why you're having a meltdown. And they constantly lie. Now, I hear some of the individuals, they said it in 2016, if Trump wins, they're going to leave. None of them left. I'd be happy for them to leave. Bottom line is, you have too many people out here that are watching TV. And even TikTok. I don't have a TikTok account. I see a number of people on TikTok who are spewing propaganda. You have a number of people here on YouTube spewing propaganda. Bottom line is, you need to know what you're talking about. Now, like I said, I tried to use clips earlier, had a little trouble with Zoom, and then I went back and thought about it. I see enough clips, because the clips that were coming up were the same clips that everybody else was showing. And I already know Joy Reid, Michael Eric Dyson, already know they're bad. The bottom line is this. The media caused a lot of deception. Now, what I want to see is the Democratic Party be put down for a while. We had enough of them for 12 years. Many of them don't have the concept of what's going on in the world. And then you have your rhinos out there. They're Republican in name only, but they're really on board with the Democrats. And I know you hear some people who say that the Democrats, during a Democratic administration, they create more jobs. They might create more jobs, but do they create more opportunities to be entrepreneurs? See, one of the big problems too with education is, coming up, you go get an education, it teaches you how to get a job, to go work for somebody else. Doesn't teach you anything about working for yourself. And when you work for somebody else, you cap out. Then you have to go somewhere else. You have to depend on their benefits. You never really fulfill what you really know, because in the end, you're stagnated and you do a particular job. So if you're one who's really ambitious, company's not going to let you show that ambition, because you're going to have a number of people who are going to be intimidated by your ambition. And the way you really show your ambition is you go and get your own. That's how you become somebody who can be financially free, and you pay all your bills off. See, that's what college doesn't teach you. College is a drain in the pocket, depending on what you go to school for. And you have a number of people who say they're educated, even though they get bullshit degrees like humanities degrees. They're useless degrees. Even business administration is a useless degree. because it's an easy degree. It's not math intensive. Yeah, you have to do some thinking, but the courses are basically general. You can get an MBA, but you have a number of people getting MBAs. And if you're going to get a business degree, go get business with some finance, with some management information systems, with some accounting, or some business analytics. Just don't go and get a straight business degree, or don't get a degree in management. Also get a degree in STEM. STEM has a lot of positions open. STEM is very, very valuable, but you have to understand math. And then you have to get certifications with STEM. And that's another thing that they don't teach about degrees. Getting a degree is great. It shows that you've gone through a curriculum, but you need to get the certifications because that's part of the credentials. And getting a degree doesn't make you smart. If you want to learn about some US history, you don't need to go to school for that. What guys need to do is learn a trade. You know, you hear a number of women going to school. These women are going to school, but they're not making any more money than the man using his hands. Why? Because women don't go to school for hard majors. Most of them don't. And a number of women, they're like drones. They'll listen to what the media tells them. They won't listen to what their man asks them, but they'll listen to that media and their churches tell them. They'll follow that because they think they have an advantage. They'll listen to what the government tells them. But in the end, they're still poor. A degree is nothing, depending on what it is. It's nothing more than a scam. It's a scam if you don't utilize it correctly. That's what it is. And it puts you in debt. This is why a number of college students are in debt now. But in the end, if you listen to the propaganda, you're going to be lost. And what we had during this election was a lot of lying, a lot of deception. And if you're on a side that was involved with the lying and deception, if you're going to save yourself, you got to correct. You got to correct it. In other words, you got to check yourself before you wreck yourself. Because in the end, I'm going to ask this question. You want liberty? Or you want tyranny? The choice is yours. You only live one time. And while you're alive today, you make the best of it. And I always say the best for me is being allowed to make choices instead of allowing the government to control every aspect of my life. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 401 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. And if you're looking for some STEM content, you check out my second channel, the QCIS channel. On that channel, I'll give you a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. Now, here's where you can find me for the 401 Talk Zone radio show channel. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on X, formerly Twitter. You can find me on Rumble and Truth Social for the QCIS channel. You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, which is formerly X, correction, X, which is formerly Twitter, and LinkedIn. And in the end, always be blessed for what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have. Know that the sun always rises in the east and sets in the west. And if it doesn't apply, let it fly. But if the shoe fits, wear it. If you don't like the shoe, change it. And once again, thank you for listening to this edition of the 411 Talk Song Radio Show right here on YouTube. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. I want you all to have a wonderful and gracious evening. God bless you. I'm out.